Hello, everybody, and welcome to Serious Talk Saturday.
How's it going, everyone? Welcome. Thank you very much for joining us today. We are back after taking an initial break last weekend to give you some of the best of MindMineTV via the talk show. Hopefully you were able to enjoy it, and now we're excited to get back into what we've been taking on for several weeks now, which is 35 deep questions you've probably never asked yourself, and kudos if you have.
Kudos always makes me think of food, by the way. I'm not sure why.
Really?
Yeah.
I guess I could see it as like a snack brand or something, like,
right?
Hey, break into a kudos today.
Yeah. I always thought that it was something of a snack brand when I first heard the word, because it just sounded like food.
I guess
like
I could see that. Then again, sugar and food usually excite you anyway, so.
That's true. It's a true statement. It's a true statement. I don't think I'm alone in that, so that's okay. How is everybody doing on this beautiful Saturday? It is June 30th, so we are in full summer mode now.
Exactly, and it's already getting super hot here, at least in SoCal. And I've heard of it getting hot in many locations. Even over in England, people are like, okay, we get it. Thank you. Let's bring it down a little bit. Just a little bit. And hey, Jill, how's it going? Thank you for joining us live on Twitch. And of course, you can join us on Twitch as well, twitch.tv/MindMineTV, every Saturday at 1 p.m. PDT for the live recording of this show. And he says, kudos makes me think of the aliens from The Simpsons. I think it was King and Kudos. I think their names were. Okay, yeah. I do know the aliens you're talking about, but yeah, I can't remember the names of them. If that's the case, then there we go. We've got food and we got aliens.
There was another show. Is it Mindy and Mork?
Mork and Mindy?
Mork and Mindy.
With Robin Williams, yeah. That was one of his first big gigs.
That was he was an alien in that one, right?
Yes, yeah.
If I'm not mistaken.
Throwback Saturdays, folks.
Throwback Saturdays.
Enjoy.
That's right. All right, so we are in our journey to answer 35 questions. We are now on question number 26. So we're almost at the end, everybody. I'm actually kind of sad about that. I've liked answering these questions and seeing what everyone else in our audience also had to say in response to these questions as well. I've learned a lot, I feel like, about myself, about other people, about life. It's been nice. So, number 26, and I will put this question in chat as well for everybody who is joining us live on Twitch. If you were falsely convicted of a crime, how would you adapt to prison life? Put that there for everybody. Falsely convicted of a crime. So I guess for me it would depend on what kind of crime, like how horrible was it? Am I going to like sort of minimum security prison, or am I going to like prison for life? That would be one question that I would have of this question.
That's fair. That is a good point. I didn't think about that, but that is a good point. Like, how bad is this false conviction? Okay.
Right.
That's cool. That's a good point.
And then I'm guessing I know so very little about the prison system, clearly, as will be evidenced by my answer here, but prisons are gender specific, right? Like, you can't go to like a co-ed prison, can you?
I mean, as far as I'm aware of, it's either an all-women's prison or an all-men's prison.
Okay.
That I'm aware of, that there is no commingling of any sorts.
Okay. All right. So that answers that question. Okay, cool. So basically, if I was falsely convicted of a, let's say, minor crime, and it was just for a few months, I guess. Again, not really sure on that whole thing. I'm assuming my lawyer kind of sucked in this whole thing because I'm in prison now. But hopefully I don't have a good lawyer. But anyways, okay. So I think in both cases, whether it was a minor crime or a more serious crime that I was falsely convicted of, I would try to get my name cleared, right? Like, I would hopefully have somebody on the outside that I could be in touch with and be like, listen, this is bollocks. Get me out.
But this is saying, how do you adapt to the prison life? So that's not adapting.
Right.
That's just trying to get your ass out.
That's right. So I guess I would be saying I wouldn't be adapting to it because I would be falsely convicted. So why? Like, no. Like, fuck that shit. Yeah, that's a good point, actually. I would be trying the hell to get out. I mean, otherwise, if it was a minor crime and I was just gonna do just a few months, I guess, in prison, you know, I would keep my head down and just not make any waves and just write it out. And then when I got out of prison, I'd be like, fuck everybody. But while I was in prison, I would just think of ways to get back at stuff, try to do research. Actually, I mean, I guess I still wouldn't be adapting.
Nope.
No. If it was a serious crime...
She has no answer for this, folks.
The thing is, I guess I wouldn't try to adapt because it would not... It would be wrong of me to be there, and I would not accept that. So I guess I wouldn't adapt very well. But in this... Assuming that I just could not get out of prison, I think eventually over time I would try to make the best of it. Like, okay... Like, what do I need to do to survive here? And, you know, hopefully not get on anybody's bad side, so that I could, like, not be shanked in prison. That would be a thing. That would be probably one way that I would not.
So living, staying alive, that's always good.
Staying alive. Maybe even figure out who the key players were. Not necessarily get on their good side, but just stay out of their way, you know, and potentially Shawshank Redemption the hell out of it somehow. If anyone who hasn't watched that, spoiler alert, but he basically does not adapt to prison life. He's like, fuck this shit, I am leaving.
Well, no, I think the ending of it is that depending on the character you're talking about, he doesn't adapt to real life. It's not jail life, it's real life.
We're talking about Morgan Freeman's character?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm talking about the other guy who...
Oh, okay, I got you.
Who got the heck out of Dodge.
Okay,
I don't remember his character name, or the actor's name. Sorry.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. I got you. And hey, Red Siskin, how's it going? GL says, this is an interesting question for myself. I'd probably dig even deeper, more intensively into my religious faith to help me cope. About the only answer I can really think of. Try to avoid the more rougher aspects by keeping myself busy that way, and work more on my physical health as well. Do the best I can to stay out of issues. I know people that used to be there long ago, and no pleasant stories, to say the least. Absolutely. Hey, Adial, how's it going? I would become the first prison streamer. Hashtag prison streamer. There you go. Streamer. Be like, hey guys, I'm playing the game A Way Out in prison. Ironic, right? This is funny. Check it out. Subscribe.
Also, we're streaming Prison Break from prison. Check us out on Rabbit.
Hey, Josh, how's it going? Thank you, Mario Man, for joining us today, man. Appreciate that. Yeah, so what the question is for folks just joining us is, if you were falsely convicted of a crime, how would you adapt to prison life? And so, you know, these questions aren't just for us, but also for you in chat. And Tatiana was saying that basically if she wouldn't adapt,
because it'll be falsely convicted.
Right, but
that's all I'm saying.
Either way, it doesn't matter. Let's say if you were in prison, no matter what, you would have to adapt somehow, though, while you were there.
I guess I would make it my mission to have my goal be to get out of prison. I mean, that would be...
So head down in the library, only come out for meals.
Yeah.
All right, there you go.
Try not to aggro the people who would want to kill me, that kind of thing. Make no waves.
Yeah, I feel like that's tough, too, because it's not even the fact that... I mean, it's part of the fact, but, you know, it's not just the fact that you have other prisoners there who have done potentially horrible crimes or benign crimes for the most part, but still got pulled in, right? Because that happens a lot as well. You look at the number of just minor offenses, minor drug offenses, for instance, of those people that got arrested and been stuck in, you know, prison for years. So... You know, there are plenty of people that are harmless, but they don't want to be there, right? So you have the anxiety of all these people, whether stable or not so stable, you know, wanting to be free, get the hell out of there, frustrated at their situation, frustrated with other people, feeling like they don't have much of a space of their own. Let alone also you have guards who are either potentially overly arrogant or ones who are on edge because, again, they don't want a huge fight to break out, them get caught in between it, and them getting knifed or anything like that. So they're on edge. The people inside are on edge. So it's a tough situation. I would say, too, like, you know, keeping your head down and just not worrying about shit and just moving along as best as you can. But it's tough. I mean, the prison system is so messed up right now, too. We have for-profit prisons. We have prisons where businesses are running them and they don't know how to maintain them. Sanitation is low. The food is complete shite. I mean, we hear stories about like, oh, well, they get a library and they get all this stuff to educate and they get this nice food. They get a meal every day. That doesn't mean it's good by any means, by the way. And those are only for certain prisons. Those aren't all prisons. And, you know, it's just interesting because a lot of these people are used for free labor. I mean, that's really where it comes in, is that they get contracted out to other businesses or the business that owns that prison. And like, great, you're going to work for free. And I kid you not, this is known amongst the police. This is known amongst that niche very well, and they do nothing about it for the most part. There was actually a sheriff about 7 or 8 months ago, maybe to a year now, and I can't remember the specific location. It might have been Texas, but don't quote me on that. And he was literally in an interview where they were talking about, oh, they were going to release some prisoners from minor offenses and everything else. And he's like, but, I mean, who's going to be cooking in our kitchens? Who's going to be cleaning the cars for the department? Who's going to be doing all this? Basically, what he was saying was free labor. And it's like, dude, that's slavery. You cannot be saying that shit or be doing that or enforcing it. That is not your role. So, I mean, there are some really bad mindsets within the legal system and within the criminal justice system. So, I mean, for me, I feel like, yeah, the best thing to do is just try to stay low, do what needs to be done, whether it's, I don't know, making clothes or putting together some license plates, but doing something, but also like educating myself, see if I can't get some sort of appeal going or, you know, try to get another case out of it or whatever I can do, basically, to try to get myself out. And basically, as long as you're on good behavior, most of the time, depending on who you are, but most of the time you can get out early also, because they usually reevaluate cases too on a case-by-case basis to see if you should still be in there or if you are ready for society again, ideally.
It also sounds like you'd be pretty much doing the same thing I would be doing.
To a point, yeah. I mean, definitely staying out of the way. I like GL's idea too, because I guess what I was trying to get at too is like the anxiousness, the anxiety, the stressors from everyone in there, not just the convicts, that it's difficult enough as is, let alone trying to take all that on yourself. So, you know, like trying to figure out ways of maintaining your health, you know, whether it's seeing a psychologist or a therapist, which at times there are ones on site, getting involved in different programs as well. There are actually many theatrical organizations that will come into a prison to for rehabilitation purposes. They will do plays, they will do Shakespeare, they will do many other sorts of plays to get people interested in new and different things and get them just showing more of a creative side. And it helps, again, as a stress reliever, besides just being out in the yard pumping some iron with, you know, the potential of getting punched in the face, you know. So you don't have to worry about that, right? This is an area where it's non-competitive, so you don't have all that angst and energy being unleashed. So, you know, maybe trying to do things like that from more of an artistic side, because hopefully those types of people too are not the ones that are going to end up causing more issues than what's needed. Ideally doesn't mean that's the case, but that would be kind of my natural go-to.
Mario Man says, I always heard act as crazy as possible in prison so people would leave you alone because no one wants to mess with the crazy one.
Oh, there you go. I mean, that could work too until you get someone who's actually crazy.
Who's crazier than you. I would also venture or posit, or whatever word works here, that men's prisons and women's prisons, I wonder how they're different in terms of, you know, what in a lot of ways. I don't know, in all sorts of aspects. And then, of course, the whole, minimum prison versus maximum prison, maximum security prison, minimum security prisons, how they also, of course, differ in both the environment, but also the inmates and the guards as well.
Oh yeah, and it also depends too. Like for instance, are you being put into isolation, or will you be mixed in with others? Because depending on the crime, like you mentioned too, not only based on minimum or maximum security, but you can also be put in isolation as well. So you're completely separated. You eat meals by yourself. The only interaction you really get is once in a while with the guard, or a doctor or something like that. But really, that's about it. And though those are typically for pretty heinous crimes. And I think in one way it's actually kind of nice because at least you're to yourself and you don't have to worry about other people. But at the same time, you are just strictly by yourself. So
that doesn't sound too horrible to me, I must say. But yeah, it's not for everyone.
Right, exactly. I mean, we are naturally social beings. So even if it's not direct contact, being around people can help revitalize and regenerate in many ways too, and just get your bearings on your surroundings, help you get your bearings on your surroundings a lot easier sometimes. Not all the time, because I've been to malls. That's a shit show.
Oh, malls. Whew. Especially on Saturdays.
Sometimes they feel like prisons too. And sometimes fights break out. So
I think that's interesting because I feel like people who are more empathetic, right? Like they'll be much more sensitive to a lot of people around them, like groups, crowds. They exhaust me. I like being around them for about 5 minutes, and then I'm done. Like, all right, I'm out. Peace out. And then the rest of the few hours it's a struggle. It's a struggle. And then you've got children screaming. But anyways, we digress.
And there's no children in prison, so that's a good thing at least. If you're wanting to get away from children, I guess prison could be a way. It's not the best way, but it is a way. And also, going off chat here, Aaaand says, check out the Black Dolphin prison. That is the most fun prison. AKA, it's the worst prison in Russia. I mean, anything with the word dolphin in it doesn't really sound intimidating, but I guess if you had the word black of some sort, like Black Dolphin or whatever, I guess it gives it more menace. I don't know. That's interesting. The Black Dolphin prison. Okay, well, you heard it here, folks. Mario Man says...
Check that out later.
Yeah, right? Well, hey, then, you can just be crazy together. Depends on how crazy you want to get down. How your crazy gets down with their crazy.
How crazy get down.
GL Gamer says the crazy acting route seems like it would really actually be stressful, honestly, to keep up all the time, which is fair. If I were to go for a serious take on that, that is very true too. That you're expending a lot of energy at that point, both for yourself in the sense of your acting, but also in the sense of having to be there in the moment with a person who's not all there. I heard that the women's prisons are worse than the men's, says Ariel, when it comes to inmates. Oh, that's interesting.
I can see that. Well,
All right, everyone.
Women are vicious.
Watch Orange is the New Black, folks.
Maybe not physically, but yeah, women's are vicious. I remember when my parents at one point were thinking about sending me to an all-girls high school, and I had to go in for like a placement exam, and the girls who were there were bitches. Like, holy shit. Like, I wasn't even... I was just there for an exam. I didn't even... I had no interaction with them prior, but it was like attitude just oozing from them the moment they saw me. And I was like, I do not want to fucking be here. I failed that shit on purpose. I was like, no way. Like, this is terrible. This is horrendous. Also, there's men and women and all sorts of other people on the planet. Why are you all like, from the very beginning, segregating yourselves? That's ridiculous. But anyways. Yeah, women, get a bunch of women together.
And Mario Man says, I feel you on that, Tatiana. I hate large groups. There's a certain limit where the more people I get around, the less social I tend to be. That can be easy too, right? You just kind of cloister into yourself a little bit. And the name of the Black Dolphin prison evidently comes from a dolphin fountain in the yard of the prison that is made from black marble. That is so freaking random. Of all the things you're putting into a prison yard.
Well, there's your artistic endeavors group.
I guess. I'm intrigued now. I kind of want to look up more history on this place. Not visit it, but look up more history on it.
I did visit Alcatraz, and that was interesting. Those cells were very tiny. They were very small.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's not meant to be a hotel for sure.
No.
No, everyone can
Very
see everything,
crappy.
hear everything, see everything, smell everything. Like,
Very tiny.
It is a human zoo. It is terrifying, really. You think about them filling it with people and with all the noise and everything. Whew. And hey, Mongo, how's it going? Welcome to chat, man. Good to see you. And for all of you folks, of course, once again, listening to the podcast, thank you very much. Whether you're on Google Play, iTunes, Player FM, Stitcher, or what have you, thank you for joining us as well. And of course, always feel free to join us live if you like, which is at twitch.tv/MindMineTV. You can be here in the chat with us and talk directly and share your thoughts and ideas on these very questions as well. So you want to move on to number 27?
Yeah.
All right. So for number 27, is there any way for governments to avoid power corrupting its politicians? If so, how? If not, what part of human nature makes corruption unavoidable? So again, with this question, just to make sure that people have it,
I can put that in chat.
is there any way for governments to avoid power corrupting its politicians? If so, how? If not, what part of human nature makes corruption unavoidable? I mean, at least this is looking at it from I'm going to be looking at it from a U.S. perspective. So, again, it will vary vastly depending on country and everything else. But with the U.S., is there a way to avoid corruption? Yes. It's called not allowing money into politics. Get it out. Don't let the candidates that are running accept money from big donors. Have it come from the individuals. This may sound familiar because, let me think about this. Bernie Sanders did it. Now, mind you, he is not president right now, and that's a whole other discussion. But the thing was that he made enough money to run up against the top politicians making money from the largest companies, and damn near won. Damn near almost won being the front runner for the Democratic Party. So with that, yes, it is very possible, but we've got to make sure that it's in law, that it's in the rule books here, folks, that we do not have this big money flooding in. They have to work for it. If they want your vote, they got to work for the vote. And ideally, with that, they owe you, not the large corporations. So then they're going to have to start thinking about, oh shit, in the next 4 years, or the next 3 years, or next 2 years, or whatever it is, no matter whatever your political system is, I've really got to start working my ass off and getting things through that the people want, not these large corporations, because I can't accept any money from them. So that's really going to help mitigate a lot of that, is just by putting into our system, into our laws, that this is a thing that's not acceptable. You cannot get large money, large sums over a certain amount from large corporations. It can only be individual donors at a specific level, basically. That's where it's going to help. So I don't know. I mean, in the end, we've seen success with this. We've seen success from other countries, actually, from other people running who have done this in other countries. So this isn't a pipe dream. This is very doable. And actually, there's a organization right now that's a nonprofit that's working on this. I believe they're a nonprofit, at least they should be, is Wolfpack. They've been working for years now to get an amendment in the Constitution to say, look, we need to take out money from money and the influence of big business. We need to take it out of the government, out of the political system. So they've been working on this, and they have to get enough support from all the different states. So all the different states have to sign on and say, yes, we want to add this on. And they have been getting a lot of support from a lot of the different states, but they still need more help. But they did as of last year, actually they got Rhode Island to sign and multiple other states to sign on as well to get this then seen over in the Senate. So we're hoping for the best with that, and I hope that they do get something through. But it takes a lot of work, and it takes a lot of volunteer hours and a lot of people to get involved. So again, if that's something that also sounds interesting to you, please feel free to check them out. Again, that's Wolf Pack, and that's PAC, P-A-C. So make sure to check them out as well if that's something that sounds interesting. But it's not impossible, and it's already being worked on right now as we speak. But I would say, though, that let's say, for instance, let's look at corruption overall. Is it completely unavoidable, corruption as a whole? No. And the reason why I feel is because it's very easy to desensitize and separate ourselves from everyone else and go, well, look, I'm getting money, it's benefiting me, so whatever. Some of my actions that I do as a politician, let's say, maybe are more long-term. So maybe over time in the next 5 or 10 years, it'll get overturned anyway, or it'll get ruled out, or whatever may happen. So, at that point, it doesn't matter, right? Because I'm getting money now, that can eventually get cleared out. But the problem is it doesn't. And those things keep running because you keep getting bigger donations from those people that want those things to keep running. So those things don't overturn. And then you have more and more issues coming in onto the people, onto the society. So I think overall it's just that desensitization and really not snapping yourself out of your own head. Actually thinking about other people and seeing clearly the impact that it's having and understanding that what's important and why you came into this in the first place was that. But that desensitization and that just initial narrow-mindedness of just being surrounded by kind of that here and now moment of, well, I'm getting money now and I could put this toward a vacation or a new car or some other bullshit. Like, that is what gets in the way a lot of the times. It's kind of our own egocentric greed and our own kind of isolating of ourselves from the rest of the world because, well, this is a good benefit, though. We talk ourselves into it. So I think just having more clarity would help, hopefully, a lot of that. But again, it's a tricky thing. I mean, we're talking about human psychology here, and humans are irrational. So, a lot of things we could throw together a lot of different ideas and concepts, but there's always going to be something new or some monkey wrench that gets thrown into the works. I personally feel, at least.
It sounds like to me that it stems a lot from people just not being happy with their situation, right? Because you can only really get corrupted when you feel like you deserve more, or you see somebody having something and you want that, or somehow you are unhappy with where you're at and you want to try for something different, and to yourself you think that it's better. Because if you're truly happy with what you're doing and you want to be bettering other people's lives, but you're okay with yours, corruption shouldn't get to you, I mean, maybe people could blackmail you, and like try to hurt your family and yourself and stuff like that. But if you're truly good with yourself and your situation in life, I don't think corruption can get you. Because you can be ambitious without being like greedy and desensitized to other people. Like, right. you can have ambition for yourself, and you can have goals for yourself, and you can try to reach them without stepping on other people and doing all this other stuff. But I think you need to have some sort of contentment and calmness within yourself for that to happen.
Right, because basically what you're getting at here is the fact that we're not just talking about money or the want of a new car or vacation to Greece or whatever it may be. What we're really talking about here is power, and however you feel you get that power, whether it's just through more money or through what you can do with that money. Either way, there is an insecurity in yourself, hence the reason why it's so easy for you to be corrupted by this. And as you're saying, if you're more comfortable in what you have and what you can do and what you can earn fairly through what you possess, then it really shouldn't be an issue. You should be like, no, I'm okay, but thanks so.
Right, and you brought up a great point. Exactly. It's like people want also just power in whatever form that is. And if you do feel powerless in your own life, it's so easy to be corruptible. And I'm not saying that everyone who feels powerless goes down that road, but it's an opening for sure.
Exactly. And, how comfortable are you in your situation or your willingness to work through something, maybe without accepting that sort of what seems too good to be true situation, knowing that it is too good to be true. And I know a lot of people, including myself too, as actors, there are times too where you have a big company or something that's looking for, actors to do voiceover. And I know this is small stuff. This isn't anything like politics, but just to give you kind of a more everyday person perspective outside of a politician, there's many of us that will completely denounce doing any work for certain companies. We'll look at it and go, you know what, we haven't had a job in a while because it's super competitive, especially out here in LA. But we will still turn down certain jobs because of the companies that are behind the money. So, we're looking at, oh, well, you're a financial institution that put a bunch of people, made them homeless, basically. You forced their hand to make them homeless. You put them in bad situations, everything else. I'm not going to support you. I'm not going to be a small cog in a wheel for you to make more money. And that's how we look at it, because a lot of us have been also those kind of theorists that look at, well, where does our money go into? If we buy this item, even if it's a candy bar, whatever, you think, well, it's just a candy bar. It's a small thing. But why am I giving my money to a company that does X, Y, Z things that I do not agree with personally? That doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't. I don't care how much I like the damn candy bar. If they're treating people poorly and that's against my ethics or morals or whatever, my kind of philosophy and system that I live by, why am I going to put money into them? Whether it's $1 or $1,000 or $100,000 or $1 million, I don't care. It's not going to happen. And so, there are people out there that just feel comfortable enough where they're like, I don't care. That's nice and all, that amount of money, but I'll find it other ways. I don't need to be working with you.
Right, and that's the difference between also looking at something short-term versus something long-term, Yes. Short-term, great, I get instant reward. Long-term, I fucking screw people over indirectly, and by supporting somebody who has been doing it long-term. And I think that's hard too for humans to do, right? Like, it's easy to theorize and think about, like, oh yeah, if I had a choice between something short term that was good for me but bad for others, long term, like, I would totally do the right thing. It's hard, right? When you're actually faced with that decision, it's hard to say what you would really actually do, especially if it is a monetary situation and you might need the money, or something else that impacts you physically and directly, or impacts your family or something like that. But I do think, I think it's possible. I don't think it's a pipe dream at all. I think that, governments are made of people. And people are, yes, we may be irrational, we may be emotional, but we're also, to some degree, able to be reasoned with if there are enough other people around to make a good argument, or try to use more of their heads than not, and try to think more long term than not as well. Mm-hmm. And I would say that, I stand by my answer of, I think what makes corruption unavoidable is that sense of a person that they're just not happy with their lot, in whatever way that is. Maybe they feel powerless. Maybe they want something else. Maybe they just want to try something for the heck of trying. They want to see if they can get away with something, whatever it might be. But they're just not happy with where they're at and how they're at. I would say, it's. I was thinking about this actually when I was younger. What's better, to have elected officials for a short period of time, or have elected officials that are there for years, decades, right? And sort of like they don't have to worry about fundraising every 2 years or something like that. And I don't think that either is, having short election periods versus sort of like a lifetime. I think they're both kind of bad because they both bring different kinds of challenges. Of course, when you have to, have an election every 2 years, every 4 years, before you can really sit down and get stuff done, you have to worry about getting reelected, right? It's like, where does that money come from, et cetera, et cetera. How can I stay in power, right? So that's a challenge. If you are elected for life, let's say, or for 20 years, there's that complacency that sets in, right? Because you know that doesn't matter what you do, you got another 10 years to go, right? So either way, you're kind of screwed. Is there an election period somewhere in the middle? Not sure. So I think, you know, it's hard to say which is better and which isn't better. Obviously, you know, in our American government, we do have varying levels, varying lengths of an election period within different government positions. So at least that's a nice mix, if you will. Yeah. We also have different levels of governments and everything like that. So there's a lot of moving cogs in there, which again is also the other thing with short election periods is that, and this is both good and bad, but you have the potential of having a fresh new voice each time, which is good if you need a fresh new voice. Not necessarily very good if you are trying to keep momentum going on something that is beneficial for the people, right? Because that fresh new voice could come in and change it or stop it. So there's a lot of, it's hard, right? Like there's no clear answer. Politics are complex for a reason, of course. And so I would venture something for all of us to think about. What if governments weren't run by people? Question mark, question mark. You know, we are going into an age where artificial intelligence is a thing, where we could take out emotions from the process. We could take out sort of this irrationality that we say humans have. We can take out a little bit of the human nature, and then have more of a you know, objective player. Yeah, it's an interesting thought.
It's an interesting thought. I mean, I think personally that it would almost become too black and white because there are so many variables and so many things that do change over time, or at least evolve over time, that not that the AI can't learn it, they absolutely can, but I just feel like the outcomes won't be what is actually right for all people. And again, that's a potential. We don't know until it actually happens sort of situation. But I just feel like from my personal understanding of AI right now, and just understand the fact of irrationality. Yeah, we're taking irrationality out of the judgment of what should be passed upon the people, but people's actions overall will still be irrational. And so you still need to, in a way, understand that irrationality and somehow adapt to it. And I don't know if AI will be able to do that. I really don't know. I mean, I'm not an AI professional by any shake of a stick. Besides the fact I can barely frickin' use Cortana, so, or any of these other ones, you know, OK Google, whatever the hell it is. But, you know, like, I don't know. I just feel like there should still be humans involved with what's going on with humans. I think AI can be assistants and can be tools that can greatly benefit, because we need a massive overhaul anyway from technology and onward within our governmental system, even just within our state-run and city-run government branches. They are so behind right now. It's really sad. But actually, now to get back though, you were talking about term length. I agree more with a shorter term length, but it depends on what that term length is. I mean, we'd have to come to an agreement on that, of course. But I think overall, shorter is better. There have been people running and who have been in their positions for far too damn long, and they get stuck in their ways. And this is how we get the leadership we have now, because many of these people have been in it for 10, 20, 30 years. And it's like, enough is enough with this crap. I mean, actually, just, you know, we were talking about Wolfpack. We were talking about people who accept only small donations and nothing from big business. Just recently, as a perfect example, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez recently beat her Democratic rival Joe Crowley. And Joe Crowley has been doing this for freaking years. And mind you, he took big business money and everything else. And she came out of nowhere, boom, through the Justice Democrats, took only small donations from the people and won it. Other people like Cory Bush, who are running right now, and many others who are running, I mean, they're, again, taking small donations, and they're hopefully revitalizing and bringing in new ideas and new thoughts, because they are out there. They've been out in the real world, having real world jobs, facing everything that we've been facing for years now. And they haven't had that. They've had training to be in government, but they don't have the years in government where they've gotten too lackadaisical in their ways and got too comfortable. And I think, in a way, no matter who wins in these races, I think overall, though, just having that competition is important, because it gets people to improve and become better and go, shit, maybe I should listen to my constituents. Maybe I should actually start doing what they're saying and force their hand a little bit. Because we expect this in business, actually, right? In the U.S., we're a very consumeristic business, or a very consumeristic business, absolutely. We are very consumeristic. And, for business, it's all about competition, because ideally what works with our system is that if we have enough people playing on the field, it forces everyone to try to do better and try to think in new and different ways and try to innovate. That's the ideal, right? That's what's supposed to happen. That's not what happens a lot of the time anymore, but that's what's supposed to happen. In this very consumeristic society, in this very capitalistic society, that's how it's supposed to work. Well, why can't that work in politics too? You should have rivals. There are so many times that I've went to vote and it asked me, okay, would you like to vote for this person, or, okay, well, do you want to vote for this person? Well, do I have a freaking chance? They don't have anyone competing up against them.
You can do a write-in.
I mean, yeah, you could, but it's not going to do anything. Not usually, unless you all have 300,000 people or whatever in your area, or 1,000 people going, yeah, I'm going to fill that in too. It doesn't work. So, with that, it's like we need more competition. We need people to challenge themselves and better themselves. And politicians, in a way, are independent businesses, right? I mean, they have to pay their own dues and their own marketing and their own advertising. And I mean, their party comes in and helps, but they have to pay dues to that party to even be associated with them in the first place. So, they're pretty much running their own campaigns, and they're getting themselves to that tier, ideally, that echelon that they're hoping to get to. That's all on them. So they really are like entrepreneurs. So they need to be challenged. They need to be pushed. They can't get too comfortable, and unfortunately many of them have. And I think by having shorter spans of time running gets the people who do get too lackadaisical out, but it also forces people to really work for it, because ideally too, they want to make an impact and they want to leave some sort of legacy. I mean, we always hear about the presidential legacy. What are they leaving behind? What are they going to do? But that sort of thing should be on the shoulders of the senators and representatives and many others within our political system. At least in my mind, that's where I really feel, that's what I feel should really be happening.
In the U.S. government.
In the U.S. government, right.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to. I certainly don't know how other governments are run elsewhere. It's hard enough to wrap my mind around ours sometimes here. But yeah, it's interesting. To kind of even look at what has happened historically in other great societies. But also, some of those societies aren't around anymore, at least not the way that they used to be, So I think it's also important to, look at how our needs as people, as cultures, as individuals, but also as groups, how that changes over time as well, Yeah. Because what worked before may not work in the future, and certainly may not work now, and a lot of times it doesn't.
And we're facing a big issue right now with our Supreme Court justices. Not the fact that one is looking to retire and then be replaced, and who is that pick, blah, blah, the drama behind that. But more so just the fact that we've had these people in place and they have lifelong terms. That's insane. That's not right.
Right. There's so much that changes over a person's lifetime. So much changes in 10 years.
And they can't keep track of it. They can barely run an email account. And yet technology has had such a major impact on the economy, on businesses overall, and on just the lives of everyday people. And we don't have any real, true core systems in place for technology. And one of the big reasons is because our Supreme Court, the Supreme Court, is so out of date. And they've also gotten comfortable in their positions. I'm not saying they're not great people, or they haven't done great things within their lifetime. I'm not saying that. But just overall, we need new people to come in there and revitalize it, really shake things up and start thinking about the people now, not how society was even 10, 20, 30 years ago.
Right, and that is hard to do when you don't have, as they say, an ear to the ground. Right, because it is hard to keep up with everything, and then also you yourself have, you know, your own biases, your own beliefs, your own baggage, your own experience. So yeah, it's hard. I always found it interesting that there was only, like, less than 10 people deciding these important cases. It just seems, it seems intense. I mean, to be fair, you know, you've got only one president and stuff like that, but they've got a whole cabinet of people, and you know, other people.
They have advisors and
yeah, and that does change over time, and you know, it's there's like checks and balances and theory in place and all this other stuff. You know, the different legislative branch and the executive and everything. But yeah, I don't know. I always found it interesting. I was like, that seems like a very small amount of people to decide things that are legal, things that can put people in prisons, and things that can really affect not only the course of something, but your day-to-day life, even. Mm-hmm. You know, so that's fascinating.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see where things go in the next, 8 years even. So we'll see what happens, and if these changes do get implemented, or how far we'll go. Like I said, Ocasio, she defeated Crowley, and there are many people like her running as well. And this is in all parties, not just in the Democratic, but there are some people in the Republican Party that are also actually part of Justice Democrats, ironically enough, just because of the fact that they agree in not taking large sums of money and feeling like, our government is very much controlled by money, and this needs to stop. And so there are people in all parties, Green Party, Libertarian, whatever it may be, that are looking to really try to make change. And people are finally starting to realize that and look toward that. And I'm happy to see that, and hopefully we see some really good things out of it.
Yeah, and the last thing that I will say on this topic, and I know it's controversial, but it needs to be said because I think it's the truth. The whole two-party system is no longer really a two-party system. I mean, Republicans and Democrats, the majority of them are
hand in hand. Hand in hand.
They all have mansions. They all have this. They all have that, for the most part. And, I feel like they pit, sort of the citizens against each other the way that you would like a sports event,
Oh, yeah. Well, and they create soap operas on the stage, when they're debating or what have you, and try to turn it more into a boxing match, which that's not what a debate is supposed to be about. It's supposed to be getting actual answers across to the people and letting the people decide, yes, this is the person that represents me, or no, it's not. And they don't understand that. And they try to sell it, but yet they're going to the same parties together. They're hanging out, posing, smiling, drinking at all the same galas and everything else. So, these people are very good friends. They don't have the disgust for one another that they tend to present on stage or on screen via CNN or MSNBC or Fox or whatever news outlet. Like that, a lot of it, if not most of it, is all just drama to get people fired up over something. And I hear all these platitudes and I just get exhausted with it, because it's like most of the time your actions don't meet up with what you're saying. Yeah. So and what you're doing is exactly the same thing as the other party. So I don't care. You got to do a hell of a lot more to get my interest.
So moving on to the next question, number 28. Speaking of artificial intelligence, what do you think about the singularity, which is the idea that eventually artificial intelligence will advance to the point where computers are more intelligent than humans? I'll put that in chat.
The Singularity.
I know, it sounds like a film or something.
By Steven Spielberg. Like that's actually kind of sounds horrifying, to be honest.
Bruce Willis stars in The Singularity.
There we go. I can see that. Okay.
Right, yeah, you'd make a good one.
That makes me a little bit happier now.
Yeah,
I'm not so scared.
Okay.
If Bruce Willis is in it, I'm not so scared. It's okay.
So just like with all of our other questions, I feel like I have to ask a question of this question.
Well, let's make sure to say, too, though, that for folks in chat, this question is directed towards you, too. So share your answers. We'd love to read them out as well and talk about them, not just our answers.
So I think that there's different kinds of intelligence, right? You've got your emotional intelligence, you've got your book smart intelligence, and so on and so forth. So I think if we're talking about artificial intelligence, the way that we talk about sort of the overall human intelligence, I can answer this question a little bit more specifically, I guess. And I would say that I think eventually they'll get there. I think that computers are going to become more intelligent than humans if we keep working at making that a reality, which we sort of kind of are. And, you know, I feel like a lot of stories that we see out there, a lot of films, a lot of books that we read, sort of have this fear that, oh, you know, robots will take over the world and they will exterminate humans. And I'm like, that's a very human type of thought, to like exterminate stuff. You know, like we go into a continent, we're going to exterminate the people here, we're going to take it for ourselves, like, or, oh, this is an endangered species, I'm gonna hunt the hell out of it. You know, it's like, that's to me, it feels like a very human thing. Like, you don't see animals walking around being like the lions aren't killing all the gazelles and whatever else because they want to like exterminate them. They're like hungry and that's their food, and they're fighting for resources, you know?
Yeah, it feels like extermination, we talked about this earlier, is more so just about power. It's a power play. It's insecurity.
Right.
So do we really think AI will want to make power plays and will feel insecure? I don't know. You could say, I guess, you could pick really one side or the other, but...
So, you know, I don't necessarily think that the artificial intelligence that we build, unless we somehow code that into them somehow, or of course, you know, we model that for them, I don't necessarily think that is going to be something that they would want to, you know, speaking loosely of this they, but it is interesting because, you know, in a way, I feel like our need to create this artificial intelligence, it's a little bit like parent and child in some ways, right? And like most children, it will surpass the parents, right? In some ways, right? So I think that's going to happen. But just like the parent-child relationship, they will also model some of the behaviors that we model as well. So, like, I'm excited about it because I see a lot of potential in AI helping us be better humans, the same way that children can help parents become better humans, if that makes sense. And the same way that, you know, there is that sharing, that kind of two-way communication between parent and child, ideally. So I'm excited by it. I think that, you know, at the end of the day, we are also like a computer, right? I mean, we are more than the sum of our parts. But you make one part of us break, right? And the whole can disintegrate as well. And that is no different than turning off a computer or replacing a part for it, right? And it's very interesting to me. I look forward to all the AI that's even coming out right now, you know, and like reading all about it. And of course there's going to be like hiccups here and there because, again, they are made by people, right? Right. It's like whenever we look at our computers, we're like, fucking computer. It's like, it was made by a few people. You know, it was coded by people. The parts were made by people. But I'm very interested to find out, like, you know, if you took a robot or an AI or something, and I know that there's I guess, the differences there as well, right? Between just like a robot, quote unquote, air quotes here, versus an AI. But what if they made something, right? And again, there are stories out there that are even current, modern now, but also from the past, where they tackle, the writers are trying to tackle this. Like, what happens when an artificial intelligence creates something? And what does that look like as well? So it would be interesting. What if we had an artificial intelligence create some of our systems? Will they be still plagued with the same bugs and frustrations that human-made systems have, and so on and so forth? So,
well, if they're backed by EA, then there's going to have a shit ton of bugs. It's going to be a very incomplete system. We'll have to pay every single 6 months for a DLC.
I guess so. But yes, I mean, I think that I don't think it's anything to be afraid of. I'm looking forward to it. Will it be a perfect, seamless sort of transition? Of course not, because we as humans like to exterminate things, but also we're afraid, right? We're afraid of losing the power, whatever the power may look like. So I think there's definitely going to be a lot of people who may not want to lose the control that they seem to think that they have. Or that they'll want to use AI to their own nefarious needs as well. Because at the end of the day, it is also a tool, right? The same way that you can use people as tools, you can also, of course, use AI as tools. So.
And people can just be tools.
And that is also a true statement.
There you go. And jumping over to our chat real quick, Crazy Doc 08 says, Singularity, directed by Michael Bay, voiced by Susan Bennett, the voice of Siri. By the way, Susan, I understand that you feel like you need to follow me every 6 months on the Twitters, but it doesn't mean you have to then unfollow me afterward. It's okay. It's okay. Be comfortable with the fact I haven't followed you, okay? I mean, I appreciate your work with Siri. Don't get me wrong. The voice, very nice. But stop. Stop with the follows. That's all I'm saying. Anyway.
I'm not sure what's going on there.
No, seriously, it's weird. Like, I don't know, like, whoever runs her account or whatever, but they keep following us. They keep following MindMine and myself, my personal account. Like, every 6 months to a year, it, like, never fails. Like, all of a sudden, it's like, Susan Bennett has followed you. And I'm like, you already followed me, like, 6 months to a year ago. What the hell's going on here? Anyway, I don't know. I don't get it. Red Siskin says it's already been happening. The new generation is dumb. I have no word. People that go to university have degrees, still dumb. I mean, there are some people that have a disassociation with logic. I will say that does happen.
Well, and that's part of the thing I was talking about before as well. Like, you've got different kinds of intelligences, right? You've got that emotional intelligence. You have like the book smart type of intelligence. You have your like street smart intelligence. You have your common sense. There's a lot of different intelligences out there, and I don't, it's hard. It's rare to find people who are, high functioning across all the intelligences, if that makes sense.
Oh no, absolutely. It can be very, very hard.
And that's not a knock on anybody. It's just it's hard, right? Like that's like being multi-skilled at a lot of different things.
We're talking about how our brain functions, our brain chemistry, what it's made up of, and where its strong points are. It's a crapshoot. It varies.
Yeah, and it depends on what kind of education you get. And again, I'm not referring to education like 1 + 1 is 2, but all sorts of education as well.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be from like a university or anything like that. And Adiel says, and I agree that, Mario Man first says, AI will definitely surpass us. There's no doubt it's inevitable. And Adiel says to that, I agree that will happen. And when that happens, most people get to the conclusion that it's not worth learning anymore. Which I think some people will say. I think some people won't believe that. I think they still will want to learn, but it's really hard to say because there are a lot of stereotypes and things out there where it's like, oh, well, this generation doesn't study and they're not smart enough and don't put enough initiative. And then that keeps getting passed down generation because somehow we continue to increase and progress. And I'm like, I don't know. Some of that I don't feel is quite right. But there are some people that probably just be like, hey, if an AI could feed me and I can just sit here on the couch, great, let's do this. There is that is a potential. Mario Man also says, no, we will just have to spend all day Computer pie because someone plugged in the Overlord. Crazy Doc says, I'm rather loath to characterize an entire generation as dumb. Exactly. And again, there are different variables of what it means to be intelligent as well, as we mentioned previously. Whether boomers, Gen X, millennials, or what have you, characterizing one generation as dumb, evil, or bad only exacerbates tribalism in us versus them. Very, very good point. Yeah. Which does nothing to bring folks together to work toward a common goal. Which, of course, then means you bring in those different strengths and you help fill in each other's not so strong points or weaknesses. You know what I mean? Like, that's what makes a group work well and function well. You don't want everyone only good at the one main thing, right? You want variances. You want different variables put into there because they will all be able to work together and fill in what's missing. All right, cool. Well, I would say that for me, I mean, yeah, absolutely. Singularity is going to happen in one form or another, whether it's through a specific device, I don't know, whatever it may be. I mean, we're already seeing it, right? We're seeing Alexas and Cortanas and Siris and all these other artificial intelligences. And there's many more far vastly stronger ones too, like IBM's Watson, for example, too. There's just so many examples of it out now, and so they're going to be able to advance to the point where they are more intelligent. Some of them, I should say pretty much many of them are more intelligent than many human beings. Overall, it's just what it is. Depends on your education and your strong points, everything else. And plus the thing is, it's just computation. I mean, they can just take in information so quickly. They have it's not so much that they're smarter, it's the fact that they can just process things faster. Mm-hmm. And that's really the big difference. It's just, it takes human beings longer to process things. So that's really where they're going to advance past us, or that's going to be the reason why. It's just because they can do it in a quicker fashion. We don't have as much time as they do speed, if that makes sense. So overall, and they're especially going to advance past us if we don't start working together and actually bringing in our different core strengths to really create something powerful within our society. Like, yeah, of course, then something is just going to come in that's good at everything, right? That's going to happen if we don't start working together and filling in where we're not strong, where our strengths do not lie. So, and again, I don't think that's a bad thing. I agree with you in the sense of that people bring in these human emotions into a situation where there probably will not be human emotions to a point. We're looking at pure logic. You know, this equals this, but then that means that doesn't equal this. So overall, we can't just say, well, yeah, the AI are going to exterminate us, or going to do this, or going to do that. There are plenty of factors in place. Just because we see it in films doesn't mean that that's the end-all be-all result. Not saying that can't be a thing, right? AI as a weapon is very much a real thing, and we've talked about that in the past as well. So, I mean, it's going to be interesting to say the least. I think it will happen, but as for the end result, hard to say. It can go in a multitude of different ways. And we could also say, too, you mentioned, well, will AI then come into our government? And I think that could be very much a real thing. I think it'll be received with a lot of backlash, but I think that's very much a real thing. And we'll just have to see kind of where that comes into play as well.
Well, yeah, and you say, you know, change is hard, but change has constantly been happening.
Yes,
throughout
exactly.
all of human life, right? Like we've had new technology that has entered the human sphere that there was backlash against, right? You know, is the earth flat or round? That kind of thing. Or you know, the printing press came along and all this other stuff.
There are flat earthers all around the world, okay?
I don't have that. But there we go. Yeah, so it's every time that there's a drastic change, there will be pushback. And if there is little, smaller, incremental change, it seems to be more palatable for us. But it can also be more nefarious, right? Because small, innocuous type of change over time can lead to, like, multiples of those can lead to something that actually turns out to be pretty drastic as a change, but it just happened over, you know, a longer period of time. Like the introduction of smartphones and the things like Alexa and the Siris and the Cortanas, you know, they sort of creeped up on us. But had you told somebody, what, 20 years ago, by the way, you're gonna use this AI or you know, this assistant, this non-human assistant to help you do certain things, you would have been like, no, that sounds like something out of Star Trek. But now it's here, you know. So you're saying that you're not afraid of it. Are you welcoming it?
I'm not afraid of it. I'm open to seeing where it goes. Again, I think people also have this fear that suddenly overnight, boom, it's all going to be in place and everything is going to be running and the machines will have controlled us. You know, it's like that shit. It doesn't work that way, folks. So, like, there are many steps in between point A and point B. So quit jumping to point B thinking there's not a long extraneous road ahead for everything to be implemented. Like, it just takes time. And so with that time, hopefully we can work with it and see how best to utilize it. But, like, again, people just jump to the end scenario and just go, oh, well, this is what's going to happen overnight. I'm going to close my eyes, fucking wake up the next day, and I'm going to, you know, be plugged in. It's like, get the hell out of here. Stop that. Just
Matrix.
Calm down.
We're already there. We're already there.
Skynet becomes self-aware. But yeah, it's like, it just doesn't happen overnight. And we just have to be on top of it. We also can't get lazy as a society and sit there while companies and other individuals control it then and say, no, this does not work for the rest of society. Like, we have to be on top of it. You know, the only way that all of a sudden it drastically changes is if you just sit around doing absolutely nothing and expect what you want to just happen because you've put the thought into it. It's like, nah, you got to put more than that into it, guys. You know, guys and gals, you got to work on that.
It's like Mario Man says, you know, the movie WALL-E, where the people were so lazy because the technology just did everything for them, right? And it's like, at that point, like, yeah, why? It's interesting because to the point where you have everything done for you. To me, I kind of just don't understand, like, what's the point of, like, living your life then? Like, 'cause you're not doing anything. You're just, like, someone else is feeding you. Someone else is, like, taking you to the bathroom. I don't know. To me, it's like then you're not living your life. You're just.
But see, people live in fantasy so often, and they get absorbed by distraction. And they let themselves get absorbed by distraction, and it becomes an addiction, like alcoholism or anything else. So in their mind, what they're thinking is, well, if I can get these things to do these other elements of my life for me, that means I have more time, right? We keep hearing more time, but yet we never have more of it. But, you know, I'll have more time to enjoy the things I want to do. Well, those things a lot of times are distractions. Like, I can watch more TV. I can watch more movies. I can play more games. And again, I'm not saying these are bad things, but everything has a tipping point, right? To where it's like, okay, there is too much of a good thing here. And so I think people just get caught up in their distractions because they don't want to face the world around them. You know, they want to just close their eyes, cover their ears, you know, blah, 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 blah. I can't hear you. If I can't hear you, that means these things aren't existing and that, you know, these aren't real problems. Like, no, they are. Come on, folks. You got to stop putting your head in the sand, and you got to stop letting these distractions take over and let this addiction of distraction take over your life.
But who is making all those movies and those TV shows that they're watching? If everybody is doing that.
I'm not saying everyone. I'm saying, but there are large amounts of people, and this is where we get this concept or this way of thinking of that. Oh yeah, people are just going to get super lazy, and you know, we'll have everything done for them. Yeah, because there are a core group of people that are very addicted to these things, and of course, everything gets sensationalized in the news, but these are the stories that we hear a lot of times, like man loses job or woman dies from not eating for 24 hours while, you know, binging this or that. You know, like, we hear these crazy ass stories and they just stick with us.
Wow.
But there are people that do this, and there is that sense of distraction addiction. And everyone looks for it in some form or fashion, though, whether it's, you know, you hear someone saying something you don't like or you don't agree with or that makes you feel uncomfortable and you switch the channel. that's a part of that, right? And then you want to, well, I just want to watch something that makes me laugh. And that's okay sometimes, but you can't be doing that all the time either. And I think we all have some form of it in some fashion, but it's just making sure that it doesn't take over, if that makes sense. Because we're, again, talking about having things do things for us. And I think it's because of that, because we're always trying to look for more time to do what we want because we just want to be distracted. But if we're more active in the things around us, I think we'll be more at peace too, knowing what's actually happening and what's actually going on, and we won't need that. And we won't be seeing that happening. But, I don't know, teach their own.
Kind of similar to what we were talking about before, you know, why is corruption unavoidable, right? It's like people are not necessarily happy with who they are or what they're doing in life or what their situation is, and some people fix that, quote unquote, with greed, ambition, corruption. Some people fix that with distractions. Mm-hmm. Some people fix it with sorts of other things.
So, you know, I think overall, like, AI coming in, not a big deal, but it depends on how far it goes and how far you're willing to accept it. You know, and do you really need AI in every little aspect of your life and things to be doing things for you, and through every single aspect of your life? Is that really necessary?
I'd also say this concept, you know, you're talking about people wanting more time. I also feel like that is, unfortunately, a terrible consequence or symptom of how society globally has changed. You know, because technology has given us all this stuff, but it's also, I feel like, shortening our days, right? Because there's all this pressure for this progress and being a certain way. And it's like just a few hundreds of years ago, we were all just hunter-gatherers. You know, and I feel like our brains and our own evolution is still not caught up to the technology that has overtaken our Western world. And that, unfortunately, now has given rise to these symptoms of being in a highly technological, highly advanced, blah, 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 quote, civilization, unquote. You know, and I think that if...
Oh, you forgot to say civilization of disruption, trademarked.
If I hear one more person fucking say the word or the phrase, disrupting the industry, I'm gonna punch him in the face. I'm sorry, come at me. I don't care who you are. It's like, we don't need to be disrupting anything. Can we just, like, live our lives as human beings, enjoying the present, being the heck happy with sunlight and breathing the fresh air, and hopefully the fresh air doesn't give you allergies because you're inside all day at your computer. The planet already hates me, and it's so sad. But yeah, I think it's a symptom. That's what I think. And that we wouldn't need to want more time, and we wouldn't have a lot of the things that we have nowadays if we just slowed the F down this innovation and this progression as well. Which is interesting because, you know, I'm a big proponent of AI and, like, technology and using it to better ourselves. The problem is, I don't think necessarily it's always bettering ourselves. A lot of the times it actually does the opposite, and that's...
You mean to tell me that Angry Birds never improved your life? Come on, Angry Birds.
I mean, that game is pretty funny.
By
Listen
Rovio,
here,
like,
Crazy Dog and
game.
Audi Owl. I see what you guys are doing. See you.
Crazy Dog going, disrupting the industry of creating new paradigms and thinking outside the box since 2018.
No.
Audi Owl going, this is disrupt... Okay.
I worked for a company as their HR, and I was tasked with writing job descriptions. And somebody came up to me and they're like, oh, can we really write that, you know, we're looking for somebody who wants to disrupt the industry? And I was like, nope, Not happening. No.
Like, I want to shrink down the
No.
industry. I want
No.
to put it in an aquarium and then shake the shit out of it. Like, that's how a disruption. That's the disruption I want to see. That's how disruptive I want it to be. Okay, like
Okay.
bull in China shop.
Like, why can't we? Anyways, I quit that job. But anyways, it's good company though. It's good company. Next question.
Well, I think we've already hit question 29 in a way, like
You think so?
in multiple aspects. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, all right.
So this might actually be somewhat short, even though it's not this question is big, but I think we've already hit on most of it.
Yeah.
Which is, what should be the goal of humanity? Not of manatees, the aquatic animal. No, of humanity. So what should be the goal of humanity? I would say it would be to just destroy as much as... But no, I'm kidding.
To exterminate. Everything else.
Burnate the villages.
Burnate
Pillage.
the solar system, then the galaxy, and then the universe.
That's right. I was kind of going into a pirate there. I'm not sure why. Yarr.
Crazy Dask asks, aside from survive, build, and dominate?
We're playing Conan Exiles starting next week.
That's actually that is on point. Conan Exiles, survive, build, and dominate. That's pretty much been the goal of humanity up until now.
Yeah, it's
For
true.
sure.
That is very true.
Kudos.
I would say so by the word should, we're looking at, well, what is your ideal? What do you think should be the goal of humanity? Honestly, I would just say it would be to help each other further progress and grow, whatever that growth means. It could mean a multitude of things. It could mean making sure that people have livable wages, that people have jobs, that there are the opportunities and the training there for people who want to better themselves, that we have, better mental health, at least in the U.S. Again, this is coming all from a Western U.S. perspective, but at least in the U.S., being able to not to make them, especially like the middle class or people trying to work their way up and improve themselves, to make them feel like they're being dumped on basically constantly from everyone from the top echelon, if you will. Just making sure that we have a cohesive society that is looking and understanding that the long term is really the gist of it, I guess, is not just looking at the short term, but looking at the long term of, if we keep taking certain actions, this is going to have a negative impact on us. Maybe we should stop doing stupid shit. Really looking at it, and it could be anything else. It could be like, oh, well, then that means we need to advance into space, and these means we need to advance this way or that way. I don't care. It could be under the water. I don't give a shit. We could be with, was it Ariel? I want to say Ariel. Is it Ariel? The Little Mermaid?
Ariel, yeah.
Ariel, we could be under the sea. I don't care. I could be talking to crabs. I don't give a shit. If that's the advancement of humanity to help us survive, I will talk to frickin' crabs. Whatever. But in all seriousness, though, I think it's just being able to actually work together to progress, depending on whatever that progression means. And it's going to be hard at times to really come to a consensus of what does that actually mean. But there are some core values, I think, that do stand out. Like surviving, having food, having water, having shelter, having ways of, or I guess having outlets, whether creative or what have you, for people that can, help bring out different sides of them. Positive sides, mind you. I'm not saying let's have a purge. That's a whole other different side that's not bringing to this situation or scenario. But I think having positive outlets to help people better understand themselves, better understand their society, so that way they can then take that energy, take that education, and then implement it into something that helps drive us forward rather than behind, or make us sit and be stagnant. Because I think that's an issue in many locations, just for many people in certain areas of just even one single country like the US, people just don't feel like anything's happening, like nothing's moving forward for them. And for a very good reason, because in many areas it's not. Because a lot of people are leaving those areas. A lot of people are only focusing on certain areas rather than other areas. Like, again, let's have this, collective kind of occur, this come together, and see how we can actually progress things in a positive fashion. And again, I'm being very broad and generic. I know that. But that's because, again, there are multiple ways of doing that. And I don't want to speak for everyone, because people will say, well, this is where I think we need to go. And they're not wrong, because it's based on their own personal experiences and where they're from in comparison to another location. So then in the end, too, we have to look at all these and go, okay, well, these are all those suggestions. How is there a way of making as best the bulk of these, even 75% of these, can we make these happen? Is there a way to drive these forward? And I think there are ways. It's not going to be overnight, and it's not going to be simple. But if we want to survive and move forward as a species, it's something that needs to happen. So that's my gist, just because I feel like we hit on this quite a bit in the sense of the singularity question, the political question. Again, getting rid of the corruption, focusing on the people again. Again, not to make it overly simplified, or to make it sound way too easy. It's going to be difficult, absolutely, but it needs to happen. No one said that the things that need to happen were going to be freaking easy.
Oh yeah, no, it's never. I don't think that there's very few things or activities in life that are easy. I will say that. Napping is pretty easy for me, but other than that, not much else. Adi Owl says, learn how not to be the only species that hunts their own. Touché.
Hey-o.
It boggles my mind that we do that to ourselves. I don't understand why. Like, you can be upset and frustrated at someone because they pissed you off, and you may want to punch them in the face. Fine. But, like, why are you killing people? And why are you, like, doing all these horrible atrocities to people?
Atrocities, yeah.
Atrocities.
I think you were thinking of two different versions of that word, yeah.
And not only to others of your own kind, but then also just other animals and other parts of the planet. I don't understand it. I do not. And it's got to be something more than just power. But maybe it's that simple. Who knows? Anyways. If you're a person that hunts their own, let me know. I want to know. I need to go read some books.
So that way we can go the hell away from you. Move as far as possible.
I mean, I want to understand, you know. I'm curious about a lot of things, and I just want to understand. Maybe I wouldn't, but anyways, in terms of what should be the goal of humanity on my end, you know what? I honestly don't know. I don't know, because that's goals are hard for me. Goals are hard for me to set for myself, for others. Actually, it's much easier for me to set goals for others. For myself, it's really hard. But yeah, it's like a goal feels like something. I mean, I guess you can change goals if they don't necessarily work, but you shouldn't, right? Like, it should just be something that's the goal, and how you get to the goal is how you can change that. And I think, you know, what you're saying, Evan, is really cool. Like, I like that. I like all of that. But I don't know. I guess I don't know what my answer is. I guess I haven't had enough time to really mull on it, so I +1 Evans, though, for sure. Because the word humanity implies, you know, the adjective of like, kind of the adjective version of humanity, right, is to be humane, which has all of those ideals, right? To help others, to be kind, considerate, to, you know, be this ideal of a human being. So that would work, you know. I guess this ties in a little bit to a little bit of the discussion that we had on what's the what was it? Something about the meaning, the purpose of the human life.
Mm-hmm.
You know, which may be different than what the goal of humanity as a whole should be. But yeah, I'm not really sure, but I like Evan's answers, so I'm gonna piggyback on that because I think it sounds really good. It sounds like a world that I want to live in.
Well, and Chad says too. GL says collective. I can't help but think of a positive version of Star Trek's Borg. I mean, I get where you're going with that. Absolutely, that's just the Borg. Is just terrifying. It's terrifying.
Well, it's there. I think what's terrifying about the Borg is they're at once they're diverse, and at once they're very much like our way or the highway.
Right. You will assimilate. That's
right. It's like the good parts about the Borg are of course that there's diversity there, and there's a melding of, and then there's an inclusion of, but it's very much like nobody else has a choice but to be included and melded.
right. Yeah. Exactly.
Which is a little bit like, I mean, if you don't wanna, shouldn't have to.
And GL also says too, what's that old saying? Anything worth doing isn't necessarily easy, right? Yeah. Absolutely. And Adi says animals hunt for territory if they are attacked or if they're looking for food. We go basically, hey, that lion head would look awesome on my wall. Do I need it? No, but I want it.
You've seen us play Conan Exiles, haven't you? we had
There's a lot of taxidermy.
The whole thing. It's so funny because I know we saw that as a skill and we're like, I would never put a head of anything.
Not in real life.
But in the game, I'm like, fuck it, put it all over the place. It's a thing we can do. It's the only thing we can put up. Do it.
It's pretty much one of the only things that aren't bugged. Jill also says, not necessarily sure I have an answer for humanity's goal, but keeping the path to a goal too rigid isn't necessarily helpful. I feel flexibility, more open thinking can help. Exactly. Because you're dealing with so many variables and you're dealing with so many wants or so many versions of where humanity should go, that it's up to all of us to be flexible, to be open thinking, and to ideally go, hey, it can't be my way or the highway, because I'm not just talking about me now. I'm talking about everyone. Beyond my neighborhood, beyond my city, beyond my state, beyond my own country, because we're talking about humanity. It's not us versus them. It's not, oh, well, those Pakistanians are over there, or those Indians. No, it's everyone. We're all included in this, because whether you like it or not, we are a global economy. We are a global society more than ever. If you want to revert back, I don't know what to tell you. Find an island. That's all I can say. Because otherwise,
throw away your smartphone.
And throw away your smartphone and build everything that you have. Because otherwise, we rely on everyone from everywhere already. You can't belittle a group and then use their products. That's not how it works. So, we've got to get our heads out of our asses, basically, in the end, and just start working with one another. Otherwise, we won't be around here. Most people will be like, well, I don't care. What's the lifespan? Well, by the end of my life, I don't care. I won't be here anyway. That's good. You ever thought about your children, your grandchildren that right now?
I'm not going to have children.
So, but you've thought about your children or your grandchildren that you've taken care of and that you've been hoping has a good life? Well, that's good then to say that, oh, well, let me dump all my shit onto them because I won't be around anyway. Yeah, that's real logical thinking, folks. It's like the same people that say, well, I don't want there to be abortions, but once that child is born, I don't want to have to take care of it. I don't want any support going to that child. So if they starve to death, oh, well, you blame it on the parents then. That's all I'm saying. That's as political. I mean, this is all politics, folks. Again, the issues that impact people. It could be whether it's EA and their loot boxes or this. It's all politics, folks. But yeah, that's as much as I'll go into that topic. But that's where we're at, folks. It's all about that colorful sea cow, the essence of humanity. Oh boy! Actually, I like that.
Love it.
I like
so
that.
Cool.
I like that.
The colorful sea cow, humanity.
Grazing the oceans.
I think I just found a new emote I'm gonna draw.
All right, we're gonna do humanity. I like
humanity.
it. We got so many emotes, but that might actually take the top of the list there. So number 30 of 35 questions you probably never asked yourself, and kudos if you have. This is you, or is it me saying this one? I forgot who did 29 already.
It's me. Yeah, I guess.
It's you? Okay.
It's math.
Oh, yeah, you did. No.
Yeah, I started with the first one. Then we did the thing.
Okay. We'll go with it.
Then
We'll
we
look
did
back
thing.
at the feed later and laugh. It's okay.
So, speaking of goals, these questions feed so well into each other, y'all. Will humans, as a species, ever be able to work together as a whole to achieve a goal? And if not, what is holding humans back from working together on a global scale?
Well, I think having different measuring systems. I mean, metric in comparison. I mean, you know.
That already makes it hard.
Yeah.
Now, it's like silly. Just silly, US. Just get on the metrics. It's so much easier. Everything is just like divisible by 10. Come on. So, will they ever be able to work together as a whole to achieve a goal? The whole of humanity? No. A sizable amount of some global leadery type people? Yes. I don't think you can get everybody to work towards the same goal. I just don't think that's possible. But I think that you can get a lot of people who are either in power, let's say of their governments, or they're scientists, if they're business people, if they have the resources, the means to do so. I do think that you can get them to work together.
Yeah, because what we're really talking about in a way is a pure democracy, is the sense of the majority, getting that majority vote or that majority consensus.
Yes. And I think what, I know that the second part of this question is like what's holding them back, but I'm going to talk about what I think is going to make people work together. And I think that that's when the goal is something that is mutually beneficial for all. Often, I feel like this comes in the form of a threat. Like if it's a global threat, right? Then I feel like people will be like, oh shit, we gotta work together, right? Sort of like, if we don't work together, everybody dies kind of a feeling. I think that's definitely one scenario where people work together. But basically, if it's something that's mutually beneficial for everybody, there's logically no reason for them not to work together. You know, if it's mutually beneficial, and if it's only beneficial if everybody actually works together, because like if one country's like, nope, I can't, I'm out, then the whole thing falls apart. Then they will have to work together, kind of a thing. What I think is holding back humans from working together on a global scale is exactly what we've been talking about. You know, that sort of like kind of a global unhappiness of where you're at, and wanting to like having that ambition of, oh, well, I want what you're having. And the only way I know to get it is to beat you over the head over it and exterminate you so I can just take it from you, you know? Which is unfortunately what some video games are like, right? Like you attack the other player and then you loot them.
God.
Right. Instead of just, hey, you got that? Can I borrow it? Oh, you know, or it's not something that's borrowable. Can you teach me to make it? Or where did you get that? Can I also get it? Right? But that's another thing that has to do with conflict, and nobody plays video games that don't have conflict. But I think, you know, that's what's holding humans back, is this whole thing of like, well, I don't trust you. Isn't it just easier for me to like knock you over the head and take it? Or no, I'm not going to help you do this because you might not give me my share and all this other stuff. So it's like this weird mistrust. And also looking out for yourself, that sort of survival kicks in. But I think, if people open lines of communication, if you understand each other, if you make an effort to understand each other, and you make an effort to explain yourself as well, I think that's when we can work together. And the easiest way to get people, I think, to work together is if there is a perceived global threat. I mean, even then, climate change, it may take a little while, but I think, it is easier because it's an immediate threat to survival versus we should do this because eventually I think it'll make our life better. It's like, it's down the line.
Yeah, the overall majority, it feels like, is toward procrastination.
Yeah.
It's like, well, we'll get to it when it's worse. Oh no, things are still fine. It's like the dog in the house in the cartoon where the dog is in the house and everything's on fire and they're just like, yeah, everything's fine. Everything's good. I mean, I haven't been burned yet. I'm not dying of smoke inhalation yet. So we should be okay still, right? We can just roll with this. Not how it works. Yeah, and I feel like that unfortunately people have to be basically bitch slapped across the face with a terrible incident to happen to wake them the fuck up.
Sometimes, yeah.
I mean, and again, that's not everyone, but I feel like a lot of times, and I hate saying that in the sense of like, oh, we need, these terrible things need to happen to people so that way they wake the hell up, Like I don't want to say that I'm promoting anything like that by any means, but it's just I feel like that's the situation that tends to happen is these people that are hiding under rocks, yeah, they don't do anything till all of a sudden it's already too late because they're really feeling it now. They're feeling the pressure. They're feeling whatever is going on happening. And it's again, if they just would have experienced something or been, shook a little bit sooner, maybe something would have happened, but yeah, so it's usually never until it's already too late. When something has really hit the fan that people start responding.
Yeah, it's akin to a fire alarm, right? You hear it, and you're like, oh, the fire alarm went off.
Oh, most people don't even react to that anymore.
Right? No, because you're like, meh. But if it keeps on going, and then you see smoke, you might be like, oh, shit. And certainly if you see fire, you're going to get the fuck out.
Well, first you pull out your phone. You're going to post that shit up on Snapchat and Instagram.
No,
then you'll be escorted out or ran over by a bunch of people being smart enough trying to get out. So there is that too. But man, it will live on Snapchat forever.
And that's what's important.
That's right.
Okay, it's getting those likes. Wait, you can't even
There's
get
some
likes
dark
on
humor
Snapchat.
for you for today.
Can you?
What's
I don't
that?
know. I'm not really on Snapchat. Can you even get likes on Snapchat? Is that a thing?
I don't care. I mean, honestly, it's I like Instagram to a point besides the fact they're owned by Facebook. Other than that, though, Twitter I appreciate. Snapchat, I just don't care.
No.
I like talking to people directly most of the time anyway, and not sharing it via photo and just being like, look, here I'm eating. Oh, look, are you having a good day? Great, I'm having a good day. I just don't.
That's the best way to connect to a bunch of strangers, though.
It's true. It's true. Add me to your Snapchat.
I don't. I feel like Snapchat is actually really big with the 18 to 28 crowd or something is what I hear. I don't know. I'm not in that crowd, so hard to tell. GL says, not entirely related, but I rarely react to our tornado siren test every Wednesday at noon, mostly because I hear it, check the date and time, and realize, oh hey, they're just testing the siren. I just hope we never actually have a tornado at noon on Wednesday. I hope so too.
Seriously, I hope you never do, but yeah.
It's like that with the boy who cried wolf story, right?
Mm-hmm. You hear it enough and you get desensitized and you're like, all right, kid, you're full of shit. Get out of here.
And then the wolves come.
That's right. And then you stop hearing the kid. And that's when you should really worry. When you stop hearing the kid, you know something went down. You might want to look into that. And it's probably too late.
Oh, no. Good times. I have faith in humanity, though. I think, luckily, there's just as, at least there's just as much good in us as there is bad.
It's all on us. It's our decisions.
It is.
It's our choices. And sometimes, yes, our hands are forced, but then it's based off of our reactions to what we've done and what we do to try to fix that try to fix that situation. And if we do absolutely nothing and say, well, it's not on me anymore, you're wrong. It is still on you. Just because, again, you want to bury your head in the sand doesn't mean that nothing's happening.
Right, and we have to remember that we are not as powerless as we may feel or may think that we are. In anything, in our own lives, in the global lives. It's important to remember that and to remind ourselves of that as well. Step by step, y'all.
Exactly. If you're going to take one thing away from today's episode, make sure to take that away, because that is very important to understand, remember, and write down as many times as possible if it helps.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us this Serious Talk Saturday. It's almost full of alliteration there. Serious Show Saturday. There we go. Because it's hot.
Sizzling.
We will be back with more gaming tomorrow at 1 p.m. 11 a.m. Excuse me, 11 a.m. PDT. We take on more Deus Ex Mankind Divided. We're also going to be taking more gaming on Monday, 11 a.m., Thursday, 11 a.m., and then we'll be back to wrap up these 35 questions next Saturday at 1 p.m. PDT, right here on Twitch. If you're listening to us on Podbean or iTunes, we'd love to have you join us live for the conversation. Come check us out, twitch.tv/MindMineTV. We have a grand old time with everybody in chat. Thank you, everybody, for all of the wonderful everything that you've shared, all of your insights, all of your thoughts and opinions. It's always fun to see what you guys have to say. That's right, GL Gamer. Serious Show Saturday with sizzling speech styles. I love it.
Saucy. Saucy.
And with that, have a great night, everybody. We'll see you later.